Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. We took an hour out of our day. We switched off the phones. We switched off the computers. We did not answer the door. We sat down and we listened to the artist's vision and concept. Requested by Rashid Ogunlaru. No Parlez by Paul Young. No Parlez was Paul Young's first solo album, and it was released on the 18th of July 1983, right before my mother's birthday on the year she passed her driving test. Deirdre had cheated on Ken in Coronation Street. Every man in music was smothered in makeup or teen idol floss. Then along came Paul Young in a black, what you think is leather but is actually silk suit. Is it any wonder the ladies loved him? He was the most normal-looking lad in music since Paul McCartney. And the music wasn't half bad either. Laurie Latham was the producer. He'd done star turns with Ian Jury and the Blockheads, Monty Python, Squeeze, so he had humour. Is this why they recorded at the Workhouse, 490 Old Kent Road, London SE1? The brown square in Monopoly that's worth less than Whitechapel. Born on the 17th of January 1956, Al Paul was a Capricorn. So many rock stars are or were. Bowie, Presley, Annie Lennox. The term for this music was blue-eyed soul. Hall & Oates were a blue-eyed soul band. He was born in Luton and played football for the Vauxhall Motors factory. You don't get much more British than that. The royal family were Paul Young's backing team, and they included Maz Roberts and Kim Leslie, who were sassier versions of the Human League girls. They were called the Fabulously Wealthy Tarts. Fretless bass player Pino Palladino, keyboardist Cooley, guitarist Steve Bolton, and drummer Mark Pinder. Let's give these guys a big hand. They're a huge reason the album is so great. It took a while for this material to take off. Iron Out the Rough Spots had been released in November 1982, Wherever I Lay My Hat originally in February 1983, as well as Love Will Tear Us Apart, Come Back and Stay, March 1983, Love of the Common People, July 1983. No Parlez had topped the album charts for 5 non-consecutive weeks and was certified triple platinum. Let's get on and review the songs. So Paul Young's first big hit was Wherever I Lay My Hat. That was a number 1 in July 1983, and it stayed there for 3 weeks. Pino Palladino's distinctive fretless bass opens the song with a reading of Stravinsky's bassoon line in The Rite of Spring. The song also made number 1 in Ireland. I seem to remember there being genuine shock at how well he could sing. The lyrics to this song are pretty heartbreaking, with a male vocalist finally singing, "Well, I love them and I leave them, break their hearts and deceive them, everywhere I go." The song was written by Marvin Gaye, Barrett Strong, and Norman Whitfield. I find this song to be superior to the original. Paul Young's version is not an easy version to sing. He is emotionally and vocally present for this performance. These punchy vocals tore Paul's vocal cords to shreds in 1984, and he had to spend some time recuperating. This song is one of my mother's favorites and reminds me of happier days in our short-lived nuclear family. The strings are fantastic. I love the synth hook. I will say that I liked the way the radio would cut off the last minute and a half back in 1983. The power of the song as a single is in those first 4 minutes. But on the album, I think the longer version is totally fine in showcasing the man's vocal abilities. No wealthy tarts on this track, interestingly, but I'm pretty sure they're in the video. Come Back and Stay, as the second UK hit single for Paul Young, reached number 4. The wealthy tarts on this were a prominent part of the song's identity. Also, though, this was a much bigger hit globally than its predecessor. A number 1 in Belgium, Germany, Switzerland and New Zealand, number 2 in Holland, number 3 in Ireland, Austria and Norway, a number 5 in France, and although only number 22 in the US, I think it's fair to say that this track got his transatlantic career rolling. The lyrical switch from Lavario to Victim, I think, was a shrewd one. Also, this song was much more in keeping with 1983's overall pop sensibility. The bass is a feature on the track. In white pop music, remember, this was groundbreaking. Japan and Gary Newman had been featuring this fretless bass presence in their more alternative worlds. But 1983 was Kajagoogoo, Too Shy, Level 42, The Sun Goes Down. Nightclubs were taking off. You needed a good bass line. To this day, I still sing along in earnest to this track, and the girls really made it for me. Jack Lee, the composer, had also written Hanging on the Telephone for Blondie. Love of the Common People, Paul's third UK top 10 hit, a massive number 2 Christmas song that I absolutely love. Nicky Thomas had taken the song to number 9 in 1970 as a pop reggae song. It was originally sung by the Four Preps in 1967 and was written by John Hurley and Ronnie Wilkins, who had penned Son of a Preacher Man for Dusty Springfield. Just listen to some of the others who've covered it. Mr. Spock from Star Trek in 1968, or Leonard Nimoy. The Everly Brothers, Lynn Anderson, John Denver, Stiff Little Fingers. Even Springsteen did a live version. Paul's version had featured Emmanuel Rodriguez on trombone. The brass player was also known as Rico and had worked with Prince Buster, Specials and Jules Holland. There is a uniquely human element to the intro of this song with rhythmic breathing and an incessant rhythmic drive throughout. I love those wealthy tarts, Maz and Kim, with their inspired I, in a isoko. Add to this the rich subharmonics, and what you have, I think, is one of the best Christmas records ever. This song is an evergreen joy. Cuckoo Karama is a great album track, fresh, feisty, and inventive. We are lovers of the world tonight. Tell the dawn and tell the light. The band behind Paul are solid and convincing. Steve Bolton does a great job on guitar. We're finding throughout this album, Pino Palladino always does a great job. The girls are relevant and humorous. I like this song a whole lot. No Parlez is the title track. I like the chorus. You hate your children to rise. Still you put the hammer in the hands of your children. This is clearly the more new wave side to the album. Keep your wig on. I'm not going to diss the song. What I will say is that this album is packed with direct hits, and to me this song is like a 6 out of 10 compared to these other juggernauts that we have surrounding it. Tender Trap. Paul's in fine voice here. It works. It's alternative. There's a key change up to the chorus. It sounds like Rico's trombone is here again. Paul had secured his deal essentially by being the heartbeat of the Q-Tips, who had garnered a respect on the live circuit. Mickey Most from Rack Records saying on Radio 1 that Q-Tips are easily the best live band working. Let's not forget Paul's involvement in Street Band with their 1978 funny Top 20, Toast. Paul Young is so very British, but this body of work on No Parlez combined his genuine love and respect of R&B with the contemporary machinations of a swaggering, glossy, new wave peak. Paul Young, together with his team, invented this place in British pop. Talk to British people. They love soul and reggae, and here was an artist that was able to channel that British Isles love of that music, with, dare I say it, a white face. You can never say Paul Young was pretentious, and I also don't recall Paul Young causing offence or derision in any of the many Caribbean arteries I was privy to, and I can assure you that Caribbeans were not shy in cussing artists that tried to emulate or represent their style unsuccessfully. So we are 6 down, 5 to go here with the album tracks. Iron Out the Rough Spots is memorable in this collection. Steve Cropper from Booker T and the MGs helped to write this track together with Booker T and David Porter. No Parlez is quirky as an album. I don't love this song, but it doesn't matter because this album wouldn't work without it. I do love those girls though. To me it almost sounds more like a Bananarama or Bellstars hit. Oh Women, trademark bass, album track Feel. It's one of Jack Lee's compositions. It's okay. It's not the best thing on here. The production keeps it sonically relevant to the rest of the work. Sex. This song is pretty experimental. The title alone, I'm sure, had the females rushing to secretly listen to it. Laurie Latham is in the forefront of my mind here as a driving force. You have to remember the humour of Ian Dury and the Blockheads. There's a connection. This is a groove where Laurie's probably said to them, have fun with it and I'll record it. It's another of Jack Lee's contributions. It doesn't do any harm. It's certainly tame by today's sexual standards. James Brown is sampled at the end with Sex Machine. Love Will Tear Us Apart. For purists, I think this was perhaps a little ambitious. I think its heart is in the right place, in as much as that it pays tribute to the quality of Ian Curtis's songwriting together with the rest of Joy Division. But I think that this song was so personal to Ian Curtis's life that there's a sense of inappropriate encroachment. I am certain that was not Paul Young's intention, but for me this track never felt right. I'm guessing, though, that Paul wanted to pay tribute to Ian, who took his own life at 23 years old. They were both born in 1956. And so I saved the best for last, co-written by Paul Young. Broken Man became a personal testament to what love can do. 2011, I had a heartbreaking circumstance with my other half, which was my fault, and I walked up and down Manhattan Island repeatedly playing this song and crying my eyes out. This song taught me a lesson which no other song has. I'm happy to say that me and my other half are solid, but this is my favourite song by Paul Young ever, if not one of my favourite ever ballads by any artist. There are 5 dynamite songs on this album. One of them was a life changer, Broken Man. We just talked about that. One of them's my mum. You know, Wherever I Lay My Hat is my mother's song. She loves this song. So, yeah, it touches me because it's her song. And then one of them's Christmas 1983. I'll always remember Christmas 1983 as this really rich musical time. And this was like a jewel in the crown of those cluster of really great hits that were up there. What Is Love? You know the usual guys, Paul McCartney, Pipes of Peace, etc. So the only reason it loses any marks is that its quirkiness hasn't quite stood the test of time. But Paul Young has had a marvellous impact and influence on my own work, and for that reason, Running Commentary Album Reviews awards Paul Young No Parlez 92%.